delighted that 2021 begins again with the love of language, with the expression of poetry and emotion, and it's, for me, this time is cathartic, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, and also thank you to the Channel 22 staff. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Harry.
Hi, Corinne, and I know Sharon will come on soon. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on our first show of the year. Today we are presenting the poetry of Mary Oliver, a good way to begin the new year. This is Bob Beitcher's idea. He has chosen a superb group of her poems. It's always an honor when Bob visits our show. I will say a few words about Mary Oliver. I will introduce the readers. Bob will talk and begin the reading. Mary Oliver was born in 1935 in Ohio, where she grew up in a suburb of Cleveland. She went to Ohio State University in Vassar, but did not get a degree. She taught at Bennington College. She died age 83 in Florida. Some of this info is from the Poetry Foundation, Mary Oliver. Oliver had 17 poetry books published. She won the Shelley Memorial Award. She won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry for her American Primitive in 1984. One of her influences as a young person was Edna St. Vincent Millay. Her poetry celebrates the natural world. She sings a joyful song. Her poetry is accessible and universal. There's a playfulness, a sense of wonder in her poetry, and a waiting, being ready. Quote, I happen to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning, she wrote. Mary Oliver has given us a freshness, a prayer, or as she wrote, quote, a tree angel, perhaps, or a ghost of holiness, end of quote. The distinguished readers are Bob Beitcher, CEO, President, MPTF, Corinne Conley, acclaimed actor, and Sharon Siefert, the in-house legal counsel for MPTF. Here's Bob Beitcher.
Thank you, Harry. And always fabulous to be on the show, to be reading great poetry with you and Corinne. Really happy that Sharon is joining us today. I know that Mary Oliver is a favorite poet of hers, and she too is a lover of the natural world and meditation around that. There's just two things that because we have a lot of poetry to read, so I'm just going to say a couple things and then we can jump into it. One thing that I wanted to talk about was the simplicity of Mary Oliver's poetry. And we had Louise Glick a month ago, Harry, I guess, around, and really much more complex, packed, dense poetry. Language was still simple, but Mary Oliver's poetry is unadorned language, very simple, and that was something that she promoted in talking about poetry, teaching poetry. And then the second thing I wanted, because I don't want to lose it at the end of the day, there are two lines from a poem of hers, and I have these in a journal, and I don't really know what poem they come from. I just saw them somewhere. But they're two of the most beautiful lines of poetry that I know. And in this last 9 or 10 months, I've gone back and looked at them. And the lines go, someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this too was a gift. And I think if you spend some time thinking about that, Harry, you got a box full of darkness several years ago, a year ago, and understanding the gift of that box of darkness, I think is what it's one of the rich things about our lives, because we all experience that darkness in one way or another. Loss of a spouse, loss of a partner, loss of a family member or friend, loss of a job, whatever it is. And understanding the gift of that over time is, I think, a beautiful thought. Anyway, Sharon, hi. Nope.
Sorry about that. I had no idea I had an invitation to this, so glad to be here.
Okay. All righty. So, and Sharon, you have your poems?
No, I didn't receive the poems. If I did, I must have.
I sent them to you.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, maybe they went into my spam filter.
I think he sent them a hard copy, right?
Oh. In that
Okay.
case, they might be in my office.
Okay.
Yes, what we should do then, possibly, if I may interrupt you, Bob, is
Yeah.
do you have any of her books with you, Sharon?
No, but I'm happy just to react and discuss. I mean, I've followed her work for a bit, and
Okay.
Guys,
What-
can you,
We'll improvise on who reads Sharon's stuff, okay?
oh, okay, there you go.
and Sharon, I can email you the titles of the poems. You may be able to find them online and still be able to read them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So the first, I'll dive in now, start the reading. I happen to be standing. I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep, half asleep in the sun? Does the opossum pray as it crosses the street? The sunflowers? The old black oak growing older every year? I know I can walk through the world, along the shore or under the trees, with my mind filled with things of little importance, in full self-attendance. A condition I really can't call being alive. Is a prayer a gift or a petition, or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze, maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep, maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. Then a wren in the privet began to sing. He was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why, and yet, why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. That's your business. But I thought of the wrens singing, what could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened, my pen in the air. The gardener. Have I lived enough? Have I loved enough? Have I considered right action enough? Have I come to any conclusion? Have I experienced happiness with sufficient gratitude? Have I endured loneliness with grace? I say this, or perhaps I'm just thinking it. Actually, I probably think too much. Then I step out into the garden where the gardener, who is said to be a simple man, is tending his children, the roses.
The mockingbird. All summer, the mockingbird, in his pearl gray coat and his white windowed wings, flies from the hedge to the top of the pine and begins to sing. But it's neither lilting nor lovely, for he is the thief of other sounds. Whistles and truck brakes and dry hinges, plus all the songs of other birds in his neighborhood. Mimicking and elaborating, he sings with humor and bravado. So I have to wait a long time for the softer voice of his own life to come through. He begins by giving up all his usual flutter and settling down on the pine's forelock, then looking around as though to make sure he's alone. Then he slaps each wing against his breast, where his heart is, and copying nothing, he begins, easing into it as though it was not half so easy as rollicking, as though his subject now was his true self, which of course was as dark and secret as anyone else's. And it was too hard. Perhaps you understand. To speak or to sing it to anything or anyone but the blue sky. 1,000 mornings. All night my heart makes its way, however it can, over the rough ground of uncertainties. But only until night meets and then is overwhelmed by morning. The light deepening, the wind easing, and just waiting, as I too wait. And when have I ever been disappointed for the red bird to sing?
That was great. Sharon, first of all, I apologize to you for not getting the copies to you. I should have, walked over there and delivered myself. But anyway, here we are. You're here. Welcome to our show. Bob has recommended you highly, and it's a pleasure to meet you on the screen. So I had you scheduled for 5 poems in a row. So why don't you take about 10 minutes and just talk about whatever you want about the poetry of Mary Oliver and what is it attracts you about it. And then when you get through, just tell me that you're through, and then I'll pick up and I'll begin the reading again. Would you like to do that?
Harry, in the meantime, I'm going to scan these poems and PDF them and send them to Sharon. So within 5 minutes, she should have all of the poems. Okay.
Sounds good.
So go ahead.
Okay. Well, I love Mary Oliver's work. I think I stumbled on her through Krista Tippett. I don't know if any of you follow Krista Tippett's work. She has a podcast and she's been on radio for many years. Originally as Speaking of Faith, and then later it's currently referred to as On Being. And she explores all sorts of different topics. And I've discovered lots of good things through Krista, and one of them was Mary Oliver. And for me, I'm a gardener by passion, and love to be outdoors in my garden, in the soil. Like the poem that was just being read earlier about the bird, I marvel at how elements of nature can focus in your attention. And Mary Oliver's work feels like that. That's what she's all about. Just thinking through the little things that are right in front of her and finding meaning, in her life. And so that's kind of what's brought me to her.
Yeah, she really is, as you say, very perceptive and very singular with her gaze, and her meanings are universal, and they touch all of us. I was late in getting to her, but my late wife and a lot of women I know have always loved her poetry, and she was very popular. And okay, would you like to say anything else, or should I continue the reading, and when we get the poems for you, or you get them, we can ask you to read some more?
I do have one of the poems that Jen sent over. I looked up. It's the one, What Is There Beyond Knowing?
Yes.
Would you like me to read that one?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, what is there beyond knowing that keeps calling to me? I can't turn in any direction, but it's there. I don't mean the leaves grip and shine, or even the thrush's silk song, but the far off. Fires, for example, of the stars, heaven slowly turning. Theater of light, or the wind, playful with its breath. Or time, that's always rushing forward, or standing still. In the same, what shall I say? moment. What I know, I could put in a pack, as if it were bread and cheese, and carry it on one shoulder. Important and honorable, but so small, while everything else continues unexplained and unexplainable. How wonderful it is to follow a thought quietly to its logical end. I have done this a few times, but mostly I just stand in the dark field in the middle of the world, breathing in and out. Life so far doesn't have any other name but breath and light, wind and rain. Here's a temple, I haven't found it yet. I simply go on drifting in the heaven of the grass and in the weeds. Wow,
That was great.
I love that.
Yes, that's great. Okay, I will pick up and read. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps his purse shut, when death comes like the measlepox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, towards silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. Wild geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. August, when the blackberries hang swollen in the woods and the brambles nobody owns, I spend all day among the high branches, reaching my ripped arms, thinking of nothing, cramming the black honey of summer into my mouth. All day my body accepts what it is. In the dark creeks that run by, there is this thick paw of my life darting among the black bells, the leaves. There is this happy tongue. And now it's Bob. Do you want to ask Sharon, Bob, if she's got some to read, or do you want to keep reading?
Sharon's got hers now, so Sharon, you want to start with an old story?
Sure, 1 second, make sure I'm at the right page of the PDF.
Page 7.
Okay. An old story. Sleep comes in its little while. Then I wake in the valley of midnight or 3 a.m. to the first fragrances of spring, which is coming all by itself, no matter what. My heart says, what you thought you have, you do not have. My body says, will this pounding ever stop? My heart says, there, be a good student. My body says, let me up and out. I want to fondle the soft white flowers open at night. And should I move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Yes, you got 4 more to go in a row.
Got it. The man who has many answers. The man who has many answers is often found in the theaters of information, where he offers graciously his deep findings, while the man who has only questions to comfort himself makes music. How it is with us and how it is with them. We become religious and we turn from it. Then we are in need and we turn back. We turn it to making money. Then we turn to the moral life. And we think about money again. We meet wonderful people, but lose them in our in our busyness. Where, as the saying goes, all over the place. Steadfastness, it seems, is more about dogs than about us. One of the reasons we love them so much. If you are holding this book, you may not agree, you may not care, but if you are holding this book, you should know that all the sights I love in this world, and there are plenty, very near the top of the list is this one, dogs without leashes. Benjamin, who came from who knows where. What shall I do? When I pick up the broom, he leaves the room. When I fuss with the kindling, he runs for the yard. Then he's back, and we hug for a long time. In his low-to-the-ground chest, I can hear his heart slowing down. Then I rub his shoulders and kiss his feet, and fondle his long hound ears. Benny, I say, don't worry. I also know the way. The old life haunts the new.
That was great, Sharon. Thank you. And now we move on to Bob Beitcher, Crows.
Crows, from a single grain they have multiplied. When you look in the eyes of one, you have seen them all. At the edges of highways that pick at limp things, they are anything but refined. Or they fly out over the corn like pellets of black fire, like overlords. Crow is crow, you say. What else is there to say? Drive down any road, take a train or an airplane across the world, leave your old life behind, die and be born again. Wherever you arrive, they'll be there first. Glossy and rowdy and indistinguishable, the deep muscle of the world.
Going to Walden. It isn't very far as highways lie. I might be back by nightfall, having seen the rough pines and the stones and the clear water. Friends argue that I might be wiser for it. They do not hear that far-off Yankee whisper, how dull we grow from hurrying here and there. Many have gone and think me half a fool to miss a day away in the cool country. Maybe. But in a book I read and cherish, going to Walden is not so easy a thing as a green visit. It is the slow and difficult trick of living and finding it where you are.
Absolutely. In praise of craziness of a certain kind. On cold evenings, my grandmother, with ownership of half her mind, the other half having flown back to Bohemia, spread newspapers over the porch floor. So, she said, the garden ants could crawl beneath, as under a blanket, and keep warm. And what shall I wish for myself, but being so struck by the lightning of years, to be like her with what is left, that loving.
Why I wake early. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star, that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness, in kindness. Bob?
Snow geese. Oh, to love what is lovely and will not last. What a task to ask of anything or anyone. Yet it is ours, and not by the century or the year, but by the hours. One fall day I heard above me and above the sting of the wind a sound I did not know, and my hook shot upward. It was a flock of snow geese, winging it faster than the ones we usually see, and being the color of snow, catching the sun, so they were, in part, at least, golden. I held my breath, as we do sometimes to stop time when something wonderful has touched us, as with a match which is lit and bright, but does not hurt in the common way, but delightfully, as if delight were the most serious thing you ever felt. The geese flew on. I have never seen them again. Maybe I will, someday, somewhere. Maybe I won't. It doesn't matter. What matters is that when I saw them as through the veil, secretly, joyfully, clearly.
Lingering in happiness. After rain, after many days without rain, it stays cool, private and cleansed, under the trees. And the dampness there, married now to gravity, falls branch to branch, leaf to leaf, down to the ground, where it will disappear. But not, of course, vanish, except to our eyes. The roots of the oaks will have their share, and the white threads of the grasses, and the cushion of moss. A few drops, round as pearls, will enter the mole's tunnel. And soon so many small stones, buried for 1,000 years, will feel themselves being touched. Long afternoon at the edge of Little Sister Pond. As for life, I'm humbled. I'm without words, sufficient to say how it has been hard as flint and soft as a spring pond, both of these, over and over, and long pale afternoons besides, and so many mysteries, beautiful as eggs in a nest, still unhatched, though warm and watched over by something I have never seen. A tree angel, perhaps, or a ghost of holiness. Every day I walk out into the world to be dazzled, then to be reflective. It suffices. It is all comfort, along with human love, dog love, water love, little serpent love, sunburst love, or the love for that smallest of birds flying among the scarlet flowers. There is hardly time to think about stopping, lying down at last to the long afterlife, to the tenderness yet to come, when time will brim over the singular pond and become forever. And we will pretend to melt away into the leaves. As for death, I can't wait to be a hummingbird. Can you? Long at... Oh, that was me.
Oh.
I finished?
Yeah.
Oh.
Little summer poem touching the subject of faith. Every summer, I listen and look under the sun's brass, and even in the moonlight, but I can't hear anything. I can't see anything. Not the pale roots sticking down, nor the green stalks muscling up, nor the leaves deepening their damp pleats, nor the tassels making, nor the shucks, nor the cobs. And still, every day, the leafy fields grow taller and thicker, green gowns lofting up in the night, showered with silk. And so, every summer, I fail as a witness, seeing nothing. I am deaf, too, to the tick of the leaves, the tapping of downwardness from the banyan feet, all of it happening beyond all seeable proof or hearable hum. And therefore, let the immeasurable come. Let the unknowable touch the buckle of my spine. Let the wind turn in the trees, and the mystery hidden in dirt swing through the air. How could I look at anything in this world and tremble and grip my hands over my heart? What should I fear? One morning, in the leafy green ocean, the honeycomb of the corn's beautiful body is sure to be there.
Praying. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention. Then patch a few words together and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but the doorway into thanks and a silence in which another voice may speak. Bob had mentioned this earlier. This is where that quote came from, Bob. The uses.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Here it is.
The uses of sorrow. In my sleep, I dreamed this poem. Someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this too was a gift.
The summer day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass. The one who is eating sugar out of my hand. Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Invitation. Oh, do you have time to linger for just a little while out of your busy and very important day for the goldfinches that have gathered in a field of thistles for a musical battle to see who can sing the highest note or the lowest or the most expressive of mirth or the most tender. Their strong, blunt beaks drink the air as they strive melodiously, not for your sake, and not for mine, and not for the sake of winning, but for the sheer delight and gratitude. Believe us, they say. It is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in the broken world. I beg of you, do not walk by without pausing to attend to this rather ridiculous performance. It could mean something. It could mean everything. It could be what Rilke meant when he wrote, "You must change your life."
Now, Sharon, I don't know if you can find it, but the next one for you to read is "Don't Hesitate." If it's toward the end.
Yes, thank you. I've got it.
Good.
Woo. Don't hesitate. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and are not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb.
Thank you, Sharon. And Sharon, why don't you click on your video so we can see you? And we have about 15 minutes left that we can talk about these poems that Bob chose. First of all, since I'm talking, I will begin the conversation if you don't mind. I would like to just start. I mean, there are a number of themes that we could look at. We could look at flight, stillness, transiency, focus, transformation, eternity being right here now. But I would like to just start with that first poem that Bob read about her standing by the doorway as she does every morning with her notebook open and write and being ready to write. And I've often thought that if you are a poet, since we're talking about poetry and not prose, you should always take the time to take the time. Whenever the words, the images come to you, don't put them off, write them down, take the time. And the other thing is, I've been realizing as I've listened to these poems, maybe it's my age, I'm 80, but it's realizing the importance that she gives to being where you are. I mean, it's a lesson we should all know, especially we who are actors and writers and everybody for that matter, live in the present. And this right here, to me, this life that I'm living right here is eternity. And be grateful, as all of us residents are here at MPTF, to be here and to make use of the time that we have every minute of every day and to see what's there and to be thankful too. So that's what I would like to begin. Bob, would you like to continue on and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about?
Sure, Harry. Thank you, and thank you for that observation, because I think it's so true about her poetry and the message in there. You know, she was known to take long nature walks every day. That was her habit. She lived in, I think, Provincetown, is that what it's called? And those walks were very frequently the inspiration for her poetry, and she did walk around with her notebook. And to me, the essence of Mary Oliver is the particularity of the nature that she experienced. It's observing the grasshopper in her hand, and then building from that to a greater understanding of, sort of this philosophy of life that is, live for the moment, enjoy the crumb that you're given, transcend your troubles and focus on the now, the here and now. And she had such a beautiful understanding and appreciation of the natural world. I think, one of the things she leaves behind is that embrace of nature and the natural world and all the mysteries and joys that we can experience in it. And then to Harry, to your point, I mean, this isn't Walden, and it's not Stroll Through Nature in Provincetown. but this campus is a beautiful place, and there's a lot of natural world activity going on here for us to experience and think about.
Corinne, would you like to continue?
Well, I must say that living here during the pandemic, I mean, I realize I'm thankful for all the time. Be able to walk around the campus. People ask me, you know, what are you doing? You know, are they keeping you busy? And I said, the great thing that we are able to do here is just to walk outside, and there are beautiful gardens everywhere, trees and bushes and flowers. And it's just, and of course, Harry and his wife, Holly, they both have written books of poetry after all having done just exactly that. So, you know, we have every chance in the world, and I've never had it greater than, I guess, being here and walking around and seeing. But what the thing that I read that I thought was so dear when she was talking about her grandmother, who was half here because her other half had flown back to Bohemia, and the fact that because she was putting newspapers down so that the ants would feel warm and have a blanket, not, you know, at night, not to feel neglected. I mean, rather than to say, well, you know, you can imagine people saying, what is your grandmother doing out there with the thing? But it's so wonderful for her to see that and get such a feeling. I mean, it just strikes me as so hard as I speak about it, that she was so moved and was so prescient to say she hopes when her mind leaves, and you know, that she's left with what her grandmother had was such caring. Oh, isn't that, it's so sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a beautiful poem and a beautiful image, because I think, you know, the left half of her mind in Bohemia suggested to me that she was suffering from some kind of cognitive impairment, but her mind wasn't fully there, but her heart and kindness, as crazy as it seemed, was still there. And for Mary Oliver to appreciate that act of kindness and generosity and say, I hope I can be that way. Is just
because you're observing that and you're thinking, oh God, I hope when I get that age, I hope I can remember this and remember that. Wanted to be was just as loving as grandmother. You know.
Sharon?
Well, I'm really struck by how her words, they're almost like a prescription for us right now, as far as being present, like you were saying. And I know that I've frequently this last year written like excerpts of her poetry in my daily journaling to inspire me, and just the way that, you know, she notices and describes and captures like the essence of the bird or the insect or the dog, or and how that level of focus seems to ground her and allows her to appreciate and enjoy life, no matter what storm might be around her. And from what little I know about her background, she had a rather difficult childhood, full of a lot of pain, and but she, you know, got past that and didn't let it define her. And her poetry is just so, it's like such a great legacy to think that this is what she's left us.
Yeah.
It's like a guidepost in meditation. It's just, her work is just so beautiful. And I know for myself, I mentioned earlier that I'm, you know, avid gardener and spend a lot of time outside. And this year, I've noticed new birds in my garden that I've never noticed before. And I wonder if that's just because I have more time to do that, in the sense of, and are thinking more about being present in the moment and enjoying the moment, and that part of her work is it's just so enjoyable.
Well, and you talk about the grounds here, and Bob brought it up, said it's not Walden, but it's a beautiful landscape. And, you know, there are over 100 trees and major shrubs here. And I've learned over 30 of the names, all of them from gardeners. And the gardeners here are just magnificent. Yeah. And they know so much. And you see them working here all the time. And also, what, you know, to continue with what Sharon was talking about, what I also find reassuring is her finding comfort in transiency. And, you know, we all worry about things, and, you know, we have plenty of time. And then the other thing, the transformation about the poem, you know, becoming a hummingbird, you know, that Corinne read.
Right.
And so it's just, you know, to just being able to be, first of all, you mentioned gratitude, or I assume you were talking about a little bit about that, to be thankful for what the things that we do have. And that is a great thing to do, to be grateful. And I'm grateful every minute of every day to be here. And even though there are things happening on the outside of the world, and sometimes they enter here, we have a lot, and we continue our own inner journeys too in the face of this. And sometimes pain forces us, you know, erupt something or evoke something that can be, you know, something fine in terms of creative life. But thank you for that. And Bob, what would you like to say in these last few minutes? You're always very aware of all of the themes and the forms and things like that. I would just like to say one last little thing, if I may, is one thing I've been struck from. I didn't know anything about Louise Glick nor Mary Oliver, though a lot of my friends who are poets did and do. And I have learned, you know, in these last readings about them, and also some of the performances of actresses in 2020 have been tremendous. And we're going through a time when we're focusing more and more on the inner world. And it just so happens to be by women. And so there is a great deal of femininity that we're seeing, and work with the cycles of the earth and nature. But also it's these particular individuals. I mean, and so individuality, each one of these people brings to us new awareness and depth of feeling and, you know, just experience, which I really find welcoming, as opposed to some of the more masculine, not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're really learning a lot more about the interior. Not that it's the first time. We've been hearing about it for, you know, the last century by some great writers from Virginia Woolf and onward. But so I just want to throw that in. And Bob, we have a few more minutes here. What would you like to, you know, wrap it all up or talk about?
Harry, my favorite poem of Mary Oliver's is Wild Geese, and you read it so beautifully. And it's got, there's so much in there that is, I think, so meaningful to us today. When she says, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love when it loves. And the world offers itself to your imagination. And those are just very primal ideas that I think are for us today, when we're so much of everything that we had before is being denied us, to get back to those real fundamentals of the world that our imagination can create for us. And the way nature and watching a flock of wild geese fly over, how you can occupy your mind and take yourself to places and not worry about being stuck in your room, or, you know, I used to go here and there and I can't anymore. You can go anywhere you want, being right here, you know. where, imagining and letting that soft animal of your body love what it loves, and finding that inner purpose, inner sense, inner person. I just think that idea is so compelling and reassuring to me.
I agree, and you said it very eloquently, but also non-judgmental.
Right.
That's a non-judgmental phrase.
Yeah.
And they're all different individuals, and so that's a very important point right there, to allow each thing to be exactly what it is, no more, no less. And it's 1:59. I thought we were. I was worried a little bit, and I felt a little hurried, but poetry always grounds me, always settles me down, it always lifts me up, and it's always a pleasure and honor to see all of you and your takes on this great poetry. And thank you once again, Jennifer. And I will just say it one more time, even though they may be tired of hearing it. But one thing that I appreciate about Bob and Jennifer, among many other things, is they have a loving support of the creative. So anybody who's here, any resident, they are here. Channel 22, Creative Chaos is here to help you do exactly what you want to do. And thank you once again. And back to you, Jennifer. Thank you all.
Thank you, Harry.
My pleasure. Thank you, Harry. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Corinne and Sharon. So great to see you guys.